Hello everybody, welcome back to the Double Dash Motorsport Media YouTube channel. I hope you're doing well. It's time for another Club 100 vlog. It's round 3 of the E60 Championship today. We missed round 2 at Clay Pigeon because we were busy with Formula Student that weekend. And if we're being honest, we're quite busy this weekend as well. We're being a bit mad today. There's only 2 dropped scores in this championship, so we've already used up one of them, and we potentially use up the second one when Lid clashes with the Le Mans 24 hours later in the year. Obviously that's still very much up in the air because of the whole COVID-19 situation. So yes, we're doing this round today. We may be driving to Teesside straight after the race. We may be tiring ourselves out a little bit here, but man's got a championship to try and do well in, especially after the results at Shenington. So let's get to it. It's a long drive down there, so we're going to head down to Buckmore Park now for round 3 of the E60 Championship for Club 100 2020. Let's go! So, we are just about set. I know I said it was perfect conditions at Shenington. Boy oh boy, is it. I think this is actually perfect. It's not too hot at the minute, but the temperatures are rising. So this one's probably going to be a bit more of a physical challenge today. I'm just running around and sorting out lead and all the rest of it. I can already feel myself getting a bit of a dab on. I think that says more about my unfitness as opposed to the conditions. Target today is if we can try and get another Class B podium. Feel on good form. It's a circuit I know very, very well. Probably still my favourite circuit in the country, Buckmore Park, even though at times you've had a bit of bad luck over the years.
Future Andrew here in the editing room. Just want to cut in for a second. Ask past Andrew, why do you do this? Why do you let these things come out of your mouth? You've just made a complete mess of that lovely face covering that your mum's made for you with the complete tripe that's just come out. Why do you do this? Why have you got to tempt fate like this? Why, at this circuit in particular, you know, as you say, it's not like a circuit that you've never had problems with in terms of unlucky once-off events. No, never.
But yeah, looking forward to it. There's quite a few key people missing today at the front, I think because they're already up at Teesside. So there's potential for some good points today, but let's crack on, let's get into qualifying and head over to the footage of the go-karts.
On board then, going into the latter stages of our qualifying session. Banker lap was that last one just before. We got a decent 46.7 that I think was having us in about 10th place this time. So this was the very final lap of the qualifying session. We've got Elliot Wilson, who's had decent pace and been following him for a good few laps through this practice qualifying session. So he's giving us a good little reference in terms of this lap. And so far so good. Really, really nice down into paddock. It's a corner I often struggle with that. But that was a nice run here, and we timed this spot on. Any further lap and we would have had traffic, but this being the very last lap of the qualifying session, we cut to the inside to shorten the track a little bit there, and that was good enough for 6th place on the grid, which was a really pleasant surprise. Not often that high up the grid, and class pole position as well, so that gave us a good shot here from row number 3. Steve Moody just ahead of us, Barry Letchford to our right to get a good few points in this one. Obviously we've got to focus on the start though. Very, very key the start at Buckmore Park. We are on the outside. We're going to want to get to the inside as soon as possible for hairpin 1. Away we go for 1 hour, and we do get the inside line. We're going to tuck in behind Matt Wildman here. Steve Moody forced out wide there. Hop up into 4th place. Slightly defensive into hairpin 2. Make sure nobody fires one up the inside. That's a pretty good start for me, and definitely a better start than we had at Shenington. We got embroiled in that melee and lost a lot of time. So we're right in there. We've got a scrap to be had. Matt Wildman goes for a little look there on a Murray knot. But already Tariq Almu is streaking away at the front of the field. However, he's got a penalty. He's got a penalty for a jump start. You see it there on the left-hand side, and that's not good news for Tariq at all. Matt has another little go there at Murray. And we're going to start to see something here that was really, really quite strange, considering Murray had a good qualifying. In terms of the race, he didn't seem to have the best of pace. Matt Wildman goes down the inside, takes second place there towards the end of lap 2. We spend a lap behind Murray, trying to assess where he is on pace. Are we going to work with him? Are we going to try and push him along? But as we cut to the end in a moment of lap number 3, we've stuck with him for that lap, so we think, right, well, let's try and have a go. He had no top end at all. Tried to go down for a move down the inside of turn 1, little bit of contact. Fortunately, that opens the door for Steve Mooney to come down the inside, so he takes 4th position there. That, I know it was only on lap 3 going to lap 4, was the key moment in this race, because from that point onwards we just go backwards. Little hesitation here, leave the door open, Nathan Maxman sticks down the inside. Very much like a sprint race, you lose 1 position when it's a tight pack around Buckmore Park, you're going to lose more. We actually end up losing 4 positions in the space of a couple of corners. We slot in behind Carl Young. Obviously we raced against a lot in intermediates last year. Carl from the JK World team won the title last season. But this part of the race really did feel like a 12-minute sprint or something. A lot of jostling around and defensive driving in the front of the field. Darry Sims has managed to get his way through and ahead of Murray Martin, who got clear of the pack. Elliot Wilson goes for a move down there into hairpin 2, which is an open move. It's always the risk when you try to take the faster racing line from there, that you are vulnerable to a move up the inside. But the sprint-like racing continues. I'm not quite sure what happened here, but 3 drivers ahead having a bit of a to-do there. Elliot's going to get slightly caught out there and forced out wide. That allows us to nip back on the inside and retake that position. At the moment, we're just trying to find a nice bit of rhythm. But the frantic nature of the front of this field is not really allowing for it to happen. We did have a gap though. We had a gap ahead of James Winslow, and my hope is that we were going to extend that gap and get down the inside of Carl there as he's forced a little bit wide. Not any intent there for Barry. That's just one of those things that sometimes happens in hairpin 1. Carl's going to come back at us though. Murray not still at the front of this pack. This was a mistake for me. I should have shut the door there. I shouldn't have allowed Carl the chance to get back at the inside. What this has all meant is that James Winslow is now closed in on us, and he's going to go for a move. I mean, you don't need to give much of an invitation to a guy who, if you don't know, races in the European Le Mans Series. He goes down the inside. Matt Horgan is close by. He nips through as well. And we were starting to find a bit of an issue here in that we were vulnerable into hairpin 1 we were finding. We didn't have particularly good pace over the top of the hill. And we weren't in the mood to just fully defend at this point. We were trying to work with other drivers, but that didn't seem to be the order of the day. Slotting in though behind James, we were keeping on the tail of this pack. It was still getting a bit frantic up front. Barry gets forced out wide there. Side by side between James and Kyle going into hairpin 1. They disappear off to drivers left. They're actually still on the inside though. Side by side with Kyle coming off of hairpin 2, we get a lot more drive, and at this point we're hoping, oh please, can we just settle down? But nope, it carries on. Kyle goes back through. Yeah, we were just trying to get into a rhythm. But you see there, we weren't really closing in any kind of slipstream. Alex Edwards then appeared on the scene. We remember him from Shenington. He went for the move down into hairpin 1. Now this was a key moment. Camera doesn't show it, of course, being on the NASA panel, but we had Charles Purr out wide there. I'll put my hand up, that was me being a little bit naughty. And here was another bit of naughtiness, that cut there, which is going to get us our first track limit warning. I thought it was for forcing Charles wide, but it wasn't. It was actually going to cut down through sides. Charles gets through down the inside, thought, yeah, let him go, he's got some good pace. That was a great move by Barry Letchford as he starts to fight back. I should not have tried to look for the inside line into Garner though. That's crucially lost me a couple of kart lengths and lost me the slipstream here around Buckmore Park. We were still just about hanging on to the pack though. Again, hairpin 1. Everyone loving to go down into hairpin 1, it would seem. Jason Kirk making a move there. We're trying to fight back through hairpin 2, but he gets a sweet cut back there and gets us into the sweepers there. And we just let him go there. There's no real chance of holding himself around the outside. Slightly outbrake ourselves there. I think this is going to be a move down into hairpin 2 by Elliot Wilson. And this really was starting to typify the race. I don't know whether I've just been identified as someone who could be lunged on, but yeah, everyone seemed to be having a go, including our own commentary colleague James Johnston, who absolutely snaked us. And look at all that gap that we've lost there. I really wanted somebody to work with me, and nobody was working with me, including my own mate. Please, why'd you do this? But we're getting into the stage now where we're towards the pit window, and James pitted early last time, so I was pretty sure he was going to pit again. Bailey Morgan now behind us. He goes for a move. I think this was just a point of view. We'll all have a go at Andrew today. And didn't quite have the speed to fight back, which was really strange because obviously we'd had a really, really good qualifying in 6th place. And yeah, just trying to get into a rhythm. But crucially, those last 2 moves, we have now lost the pack. We lost a lot of time. Ooh, got away with one there. That should have been a track on this one. To the extent that drivers at the front of the field were pitting early on and actually coming back out ahead of us. So you see Carl Young there, he's made his pit stop. Curious way the pit lane works here around Buckmore Park. You don't actually lose that much time out in circuit. But we saw Carl defending, and that triggered the thought in our minds of to pit now, basically. Because we didn't want to be behind someone who was defending. However, we talked about it a little bit in the Shenington video that I wasn't sure about the short stop. We gave it a go here, obviously the long stop at Shenington. And here's the risk that you run if you've not had the best of first parts of the race. You can compound your issues by doing this. Now there goes James Johnston just ahead of us in the green and white, but crucially another couple of drivers who haven't pitted yet slipped through, and now we're really in trouble because now we're in traffic. We're in a lot of traffic and we're losing oodles of time. Now Chris Turner just ahead of us again. This car, as it went through the race, just seemed to lose pace as we went over the top of the hill and into the faster section of the circuit. It was still really good in the corners, so it was raceable in terms of setting lap times, but meant that any kind of run on somebody into turn 1 or defending into turn 1 and round into hairpin 1 was being a bit difficult. This stage of the race was all about trying to catch Ian Wilson. Clive Morford just popping out ahead of us from the Lucid Initiatives team. And this one, I think it's always difficult to kind of get yourself back in the rhythm once you've had a pit stop. We get a decent run here through turns 1 and 2, set us up for big lunge into hairpin 1, go for it, hit the apex, cleanly done, that gets us in position. But yeah, we're trying to get on terms with Ian at the moment, but you see that gap, and that is the perfect kind of gap for drivers to pit and hop out into it. And this again is where I'm thinking the long strap works better. We saw Clive hop past us there. We go down the inside of Ian, who's going to fight back, I think, at this point. Yeah, he is down the inside of Garner. Try and go for a long way around the outside. Ian cuts it off and just back out before we have an incident. But back there was another corner cut, and that's a penalty. So yeah, not good on the corner cutting, Andrew, down the hill into paddock. I've just got myself a little bit confused. Stuart Kirk just hopping out ahead of us there. The first warning that I got, I thought I'd got it for forcing Charles wide, so I hadn't changed my line. And then obviously, yeah, got the second warning into a penalty, 2-place deduction at the end of the race. Down the inside of Stuart Kirk into hairpin 2. again, just trying to get on terms with Ian, find a way through. We'd had to go down into paddock once. Here we go for it again, slightly wider this time, making sure that we're not cutting the corner off, overshooting into paddock a little bit, which is going to give Ian a chance to fight back into guide, but this time we keep him tight and get more of a run round the outside. We're still side by side, which you can do round Buckmore. Give Ian enough room on the inside because we know the next big corner is a right-hander and we'll have the position. That pretty much brings an end to the exciting bit. As I say, it was a very, very frantic first half of the race, but all the traffic and the losing out in terms of the overtaking resulted in us having a 6-second deficit to the group that we'd been with at the start of the pit stop phase. And whilst we tried to chip away at it, we were about to hit an even bigger problem than the loss of the positions and the penalty and all the rest of it, because the heat doesn't look it because it was quite cloudy, but it was a really, really hot day. And we really were starting to struggle here, and with nobody ahead of us to kind of slipstream us or work us back into a pack, we were having to work very, very hard. We were bringing drivers back towards us. We got the gap down to about 3.5 seconds as Benny Morgan has a little spin there, gets us up to 16th. But it was at this stage of the race that we just start to lose touch with Alex. In terms of I could see the gap extending out again. Unfortunately our camera dies as well. Apologies, we missed the end of the race. But here are the lap times. You see them absolutely drop like a stone as our neck properly went towards the end of the race. In the end, P23. Here was the reaction.
Oh, sit rep. Neck went to do with the die with about 25 minutes to go, so not the best of results. I don't even know where I came. 21st, so it's still points that at least give me something, but yeah, a bit disappointed. James over there, I won't show you him because he's getting undressed. He did quite well, P10. Yeah, we move on to the next one. I can't even think where the next one is, but we'll work on the neck. Because I say it was every right-hander, the neck was just going, it couldn't hold itself up.
So yeah, clearly a little bit disappointed post-race. To go from 6th on the grid to be classified 23rd is not the result we were looking for, not the result anyone would look for. This is how it leaves things in terms of the championship. We are not completely out of it, but we have work to do. So of the drivers that have done 2 races, we are 3rd in the standings behind Michael Ballinger and Matt Horgan. Matt's probably positioning himself as the favourite for the Class B title now, because he's already had 2 decent scores, 2 top 10s there across his 2 races so far. Still quite wide open though further down. Everybody else has had either okay races across the board so far, or some very, very good scores and some not very good scores. And there's some drivers I don't even include all the way down those into the bottom parts of the top 15 there. Still part of this because it's still very, very early in the season. We did mention though drop scores. The whole reason why we were doing this race, and kind of again why it was so disappointing to get that result, is we were doing this to try and give us a chance in the championship, because we knew that we weren't going to be able to use the drop score system later in the season. So yeah, definitely with work to do. But hang on, hold on a minute. What's this noise? Why am I hearing breaking news?
This is breaking news. The 2020 Le Mans 24 Hours is to be raced behind closed doors.
Again, and we don't want sweaty Englishmen bringing COVID-19 in crap little Mazda. Covered with too many stickers over with the entire Nashville.
The back straight into the last corner. Andrew Mather, he's led from the green light to the checkered flag. How's he feel about it? Well, that sounds like he's pleased.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back in this championship. September 19th, we are not going to be at Le Mans, unfortunately, but it does mean we get our dropped score back, and we can hopefully get rid of Netgate. Hopefully. That's going to bring the end to the video. I hope you've enjoyed it. Do subscribe here to the Double Dash Motorsport Media YouTube channel. Take care of yourselves. Hope to see you soon. For now, goodbye.